Hello all. I hope you can hear me. This is Professor Majed Al-Ghandour from UMUC, University of Maryland University College, from the Data Analytics program. We will share this WebEx recording with a link that will be sent directly to your Data 620 section, to your Professor K or Professor Menta sections as well. Thank you for your time to join us for the second section, Data 620, WebEx Session 2. Before we start, just a reminder to all that you can ensure that you are muted by clicking on the bottom to the far right of your name in the chat window. Also, there will be a small red X just the left of your name between your name and the phone or computer icon. So we'll be sure everybody is muted so we can have a good session. Thank you very much, and let's go ahead and start it. So this is Data 620, WebEx Session 2, Introduction to Python and Tableau, second session. Last week we did a Session 1, and we introduced Python and we introduced Tableau. Today, this session, on July 5th, 7 o'clock 2017, we are going through Session 2, introducing Python for branching with if statement, talk about for statement, looping over items, defining functions, how you can define a function and how you call it, also using try and except to protect some statements that maybe raise some error at the runtime. And finally, we will share with you how you read and write a file using Python. Then we'll switch in the same session today. We'll go on further, show you how you can visualize more charts like what we introduced last time. In addition to that, different charts like crosstabs, geographic maps, pie charts, bar charts, scatter plots, and also the most important, how to build a dashboard and how you build your story. I put those session here in different slides just to helping you to visualize, and I kept the agenda in the right side here. So the first part where we are branching with if statements, so you can see the if expression, and the expression is the statement that the condition that you try to evaluate and to test. And usually this condition can be true or false. Definitely if it is true, we'll go after the true block. If it is false, we'll go to the else block as well as here. So definitely be careful about the colon and the tabs. Those are the tabs that helping you to find as a block statements inside either true block or the false block. If statement can be branched as well, where you can have allowed to check multiple expressions for true block and execute a block of the code. As soon as one of the conditions is evaluated as true, we'll go to the second expression and the third expression. And the way that you branch this using elif. So elif is a new in Python, which kind of other languages they use elsif or elsif. So definitely elif is the expression or the keyword that you want to use for branching multiple expressions for true block. So the statements here will be executed based on expression 1 if it's true. If still true, we'll go and evaluate expression 2 if it's true, and you move on. If expression 1 is false, definitely that's where you will go and look for the else as well. The second part is looping over items, where we are using for loop statements. So for and in, I highlight them in blue. Those are keywords, and this is the structure that you want to use for iterating variable in a sequence, colon and the statements. So I've put this together in a simple example. So I is the variable that you iterate. That's your variable that you start with a value. This value coming in a value range. So the range is a keyword, start from 2 until 6. 6 will not be included. As soon as you hit the 6, will be out from the for loop. So if you see that, and the output is here, so if I is 2, and we try to multiply, we showing multiply the products here, I times I, so 2 times 2, that's give you 4. Then you move on, increase by 1, you get 3 times 3, 9, increase by 1, 4 times 4, 16, then finally 5 times 5, 25. As soon as you hit the 6, this is out, so 6 is not included, and that's where you're doing some rotation or iterations as a loop. I put this for you like range, so there are a couple of options in the range where you can have start, stop. Also you can increase the step. The default is 1, but you can increase 2 or 3, whatever you want. So here's an example. Range from 3 to 10 will generate sequence 3, increase by 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. As soon as you hit the 10, he's out of that sequence and out of the loop. Same thing, 0 to 4, so we'll get 0, 1, 2, 3. And also you can start with negative and decrease that, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, and 1, and you never hit the 2. So I put this together for you in a nice Python program. So imagine that you try to display population, forecast, or projection from 2014 to 2018, knowing that the population is 300,000 person or pop. So here where you print, and you print statements, and you have a placeholder 0 and 1, and you are these placeholder in braces, and the 0 is the first value after the format, so the year is the 0 and the population is the 1. Now you can see here there's no format. However, for the first placeholder 0, there's a colon and format, and this format tell us that have a 10 columns. That's exactly what you see from here to here. Does give you the 10 columns as well. Then you go inside the loop for year, so the variable is the year in range 2014. So the first value will be 2014. We'll pick it up, and you do the same thing here. You print with a format. So here the first value is 0, which is the year. However, you say left, so less than, it's a format for left align with 10 decimal, and that's exactly what you see from this area here. Then the second value, which is round population, that's the second value, and that's where you will see with a format dot 2 decimal and a float value for the round population. Round is function for the population, which is the 30,000, and that's cause you to round it for you. Then we move on with some calculation, very simple concept. We're using 3% increase, and we use plus equal, which equal like you add this together like this. The next value in the year will be 2015, so that's 2015, and the value of population now a new value, which is 3,900, 309,000, I'm sorry, and that's where you'll see those values already been printed here with the same format with the same 10 spaces until you hit 18 with the new value of population. Then 19 will not be printed. That's 19 will be out of the loop. The next section is defining functions. To define function in Python, you have to use a def keyword definition, and you define any function you want. So we call say hello, and you can see there's no spaces in the functions, and then you put parentheses, and you have an option to put parameters, or you can have no parameters. In this case we use value as a parameter variable called name. You put a colon, then you define your structure or statements of that functions. As soon as you go back to the first line, so you are outside of that function body or block. So now you have say hello, and you pass my name, for example, and that's where this value will be switched to the variable name, then this will be processed here. Notice that hello %s is another format that the s will be substituted with anything after the percent, which in this case is the variable name. So by doing this, you'll get hello Dr. Majed. If you repeat this again, you are calling the function, and you can see the arrows here presenting that story there. So that's take John as the name and print it again, hello John. Then we move further to Linda and Tom as well. Will be nice to organize things like this. So usually, as a good practice, you start with the main functions. So the first thing, the main function, and you can see there's a parentheses, and this main functions, you can design it again the same thing, def main parentheses and colon. You can see the main has nothing to pass. However, in the main you are calling other functions. So here we call say hello again, Dr. Majed, and that will call that say hello here, and you pass my name to the name as a variable, and we print it again like what we said earlier. So now you can repeating John and Linda and Tom. Beauty of that, organized. So always keep organizing your structure, your functions, to be easy to maintain and easy to visualize and make it works. The next section here we try to highlight very high level is using try and except. You try certain code, we call the body here or the statements, and if something happened at the runtime due to the runtime exception errors, this will raise an error, and coming to the except section, and this is the exception, will check what exception you got and how you want to handle it. This is the generic block of the try and except. So you can try specific statements, and for some reason that you got an except, so you can have multiples except. You can see that except 1, except 2, except 3. These are optional. Then you define what exception name, and also you can define as a variable. You use that variable for an error messages in your statement in the except part. Also, if try works very well, you may have another optional called finally. And finally usually run. Doesn't matter if try pass or except fail. So finally always running all the time, just kind of give you a message at the end. And it's very positive to use it on in a log. In this log tell you that's been completed basically. So let's take this in an example I designed for you in the slide here. So let's say we ask you to enter an integer, and this integer we use an input statement that will ask the keyboard in Python to put a string. Now, however, this string will need to casting it, convert it to integer, because we want to be sure that the number is an integer to do some calculation later on, for example. However, here we just took that number and we just print it back to you. You entered a valid integer of, and you have that str number. So we convert back that integer number to string because we concatenate two values, the context, which is a string, and we try to convert this to string, and also we concatenate another dot as you see there. Then we say print thanks. So assume there's no error or no exception being raised at the runtime. So we ask the user, they put 5, and when they put the 5, here's the result back 5 to them, and that's where you get thanks. What's happened if the user type literally as 5, F-I-V-E, and that's right away it will go and cause the problems, because you try to now have this casting integers, and that's raise an error, invalid literal for integer based on that functions. So that's where you want to protect with a try and except. There's a lot of details on the except, and the exception can start with a big subclass called exception here. Then you have another subset of these subclasses. So you can start with exception, you can have warning, standard errors, and so on and so on. So it's a good practice if you know the exception coming from specific error or from specific exception class. For example, if you try to divide by 0, it's a good practice to say zero division error exception. If you are, for example, you have a value error, that's what we saw earlier, that's probably work with that. If you have a list or array, definitely index error helping you in that keyword. If you have IO error, if you try to read and write, that's basically a good exception for those. However, if you don't know, you can use the exception as you see there. The next section we want to share with you is reading and writing. And reading and writing a file, they are very simple. You are using an open statement in Python. So you say open, you specify the file name, and you specify the mode. You have 5 modes as you see in the list here. You can use R for reading only. You can use W for writing only. You can use A for appending data, or you can use RB or WB if you are using a binary data. Usually it is for a big data as well when you dump some data. So when you open this, this will take care of it to another file handler. You give it any name you like. We call it file, sometimes we call it in file, read file, out file. It depends how you want to deal with that object file handler. So here's an example. So the file handler, we call it out file. We say open statement. We specify the file name, correct file name with the path if you have a path for this file. The extension .text can be .csv, can be DAT, depending about what extension you try to do and work with. Here, very simple, we try to write welcome to Python to a file called text.txt, and we're using the mode W. You can see that you open, that's well the first statement. So now the out file is pointed to this file, be ready for writing mode. It will not write until you hit that write method. So write method, you can see it from here to here, and you pass whatever you want. You can write variable, you can write a text, you can write anything that you're interested to do in the process for the writing. The third important step is to close that out file, which is the file handler. Without closing, everything should be written on the buffer, but when you close, that's where the writing will process at the final stage. So we saw the write is here, and you can see it does not return anything. However, it needs a string. Also, I'm showing you in this snapshot here, you can read from a file, you can read a line, you can read lines, and we'll show you an example in the demo in a second. Also, the close is very important. You have to have parentheses and does not return anything as well. So these are the processes or the ways how you can read and write from Python. So with that, let me break here and let me go and bring my Python. I'll bring Python from my machine here, and we'll go and get it. Or also you can go and get it also from AWS if you connected, or go ahead and just connect it locally to my machine. So with that, I'll go ahead and file open. Then I'll go to my directory. I have this file just to save the time and try to avoid any typo. So I'll go ahead and do the first one is the functions. So this is the functions that you see there. I'll pull this little bit here in the middle so you can see that, and we organize it very nice. We make your comments and then you start with the main, and then in the main you define the first function called define main, and in this main we're just printing blank line. Then we calling another functions. How we know it's a function? Because we call it our username, our defined function called get first name parentheses. Then we define it here as you see there. So that's the function, and this is the body of the functions. And what we're doing here, we are asking enter your first name as an input. This is a string, we don't need to convert it anything, and we assign it to a variable called first name. Then what's happened, we go and return this. So the last line in the functions, in this function, is return file your first name. So what happened, this function will receive this value as return it back, and that's the first name from the function, will be assigned also to the first name variable here. You can see we are using the same name. That's okay, because they are these variables, they are local for this function, and this is local for this function as well. But if this is cause you some confusion, you can call it different variable names. So what's happened, this function get first name will return your name from the keyboard to the first name. We'll do the same thing. Now we have to call get last name. So you can see here's another function. We'll go there and process this function, and we're going to ask you your last name, and we'll go and assign it to the variable locally for this function called last name, then return this back. So this function will return for us last name, and we assign it to this variable last name. The same story here. We have another function being designed called get current salary, and you can see it is here. We're going to ask you enter your current salary, and very important, this function called float. The float will go and convert that string to a decimal value, and that's what you want when you do any calculation, otherwise you get an error. So this will be assigned to current salary, and that's the salary. You use a return keyword to return that. So this function will return whatever you entered as a current salary. So again, we'll take this function here. The return salary will be assigned to this variable in the main, the current salary. So we go now using this value here as a parameter for another function called calculate new salary. So now you can see that's the big function here. We design it, and that's where your current salary that you got earlier from the user from that get current salary. So whatever value is here, we're going to now do some logic. This logic, we are based on our business rules. If this current salary less than 40,000, go ahead and give them 5% increase, for example. However, if it is more than that, well, give them a bonus $2,000 and increase 2%, for example. So that's your business logic, and you can see if else. We use it here in this exercise just to share with you about how you can use if and else in Python. So this is great. This will return a value, and this value can be either this value or can be this value, and you can see you don't need to assign them a variable. Right away calculate and return this value, and this will be retrieve these values, either one of them, and assign it to the new salary. Finally, we call another function and has a 3 parameters: first name, which we get from here, last name from here, and new salary, the one that we just calculated based on the business rules if we are less than 40,000 or more than 40,000. And what it does, take this value and look for another function called display result, and that's the function you can see here. Let me expand that so you can see it better. There you go. So here it is. So all these values are parameters. You are assigning them, and now we are just printing. So we're printing a new salary for, and this placeholder, as we mentioned earlier, placeholder, you put braces and a number. A number is the first thing in the format functions. So first name is that 0. Then second placeholder 1. That's the second one, last name. Then the last one is braces and 2, and here it is, new salary. However, we want to put the $sign, and we want to put format. To do format, you put the colon and you put the format. So what's the format? We have a comma, we have a dot, we have a 2 decimal, and a float. So let's go ahead and run this. So let's see how it works. We go and run F5, and here's the output. I'll just pull this to the side. So I'll go ahead and I'll type my name, I'll type my last name, and go ahead and give me $100. So $100 less than 40,000, so definitely I'll not get 2,000, and that's what you get. The $sign, you get only the 1.05%, which is the $5 and 2 decimal there. So let's go ahead and run this again. So again, you press F5. Now I'll go ahead and add John Doe. And let's give John, he's doing good, 50,000. So definitely that's worked very well. You can see 50,000. That's give you another 2,000 because of that tools 40,000. So he got 2,000 plus 2% of his salary. So it's very interesting to see this how it's worked. So what's happened if we delete the float here and let's go and take it out from here, save it and run it again. So the same exercise here just to show you the difference. So here's Linda and she's the same family though, and let's go ahead and give her 500. Let's go ahead first, just type 500 or 5,000. So even 5,000 in numeric, you will get an error, and that's the error that I'm trying to just resize so you can see the whole error. So this is the error where you can see it tell you you cannot do that. You cannot have that string and integer. So definitely the float is a good function that you need to keep handy for you. Of course you can use integer, but definitely if you want decimal point, definitely that's the key word for the float. So we're going to run this finally again. Be sure it's back, and here it is. So I'll go ahead and put my name again. And let's go ahead and give me 45,000. So definitely that give me another 2,000 and 2%. That's where's that, and you can see the decimal point and the comma because we said it's a float, comma, semicolon. Makes sense? If you took the comma out and save, and I'll go and close this shell. It's kind of busy, and F5 again. So here it is again, and I'll go and give 48,000. You see now this is 50,000, but there's no comma because we took the comma as part of that formatting. So if you put it back, definitely, if you run this again last time, I'll keep the same value, which is for 8,000. So definitely you can see the format is very handy here with that as well. Excellent. So that's the first exercise I want to share with you. Let me go and open the second one, which I call demo 5 IOPY. So this is where kind of with a comment here you can write anything, any strings, any poem here, or you can write concatenate those. You can see it's just one variable. You can have string, you can have context, you can have numbers, anything you want to write. So the first step, as we said earlier, you can have open the file that you're interested, and you put the W, and W for writing. So this is called the file handler, and you can keep this a file, or you can keep it file output or output file. You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't matter, just hold this name and then you put the right value here, and that's give you what you try to write. Definitely that's help. Then the last one is a close method. This will close the file. At the same time, we go ahead and say, hey, go ahead and use the same file, and let's go and read. Now you can keep this file name handler, or you can call it read file, you can call it John file, doesn't matter, read file, doesn't matter. But really it doesn't matter, because as soon as you close, he has another object, another variable, so you can keep that same name if you would, or you can give it any name that you like. So now we open this file, and this file is reading. So now this guy is here, he understands you open this file for reading. So think about the files line by line, and you try to iterate. So we're using file for n. and we talked about that. So the line is your variable, and the variable is the line. Like in the same example we saw earlier, we use I, we use the year. So definitely we take this value and just have a you know end of that line, nothing more than just blank or space like this. So that's do iteration until you hit the last line in the file, then will be stop. Then we close the file again. So those three things will helping you to read the file. Those three things they did for us writing. Then we said, well, where we write this, we read it here in the keyboard. Then finally we said, let's go ahead and add one more line. So now we open the file again after we close it to append. So A will write and append to the end. And we try just to get another statement here, the Oscar statements, and then we close the file. So with that explanation, hopefully makes sense to you. Go ahead and hit it, run. And here you go. So you can see we are in the same shell. So this is what's happened. You print what you wrote and so on. So let's go and see the file in the directory. I put the directory here, and here's the file, and here's exactly, we wrote exactly what we saw here, and at the same time we did add the last Oscar statement as you see there. So you can add a lot of things you want as usually. So let's go ahead and just kind of touch the code here. Go ahead and say, hey, this is done or written by Majed, created by Majed, something like that, and you close that. So let's give it another shot. Be sure your file is closed, otherwise you will get probably some error. So now we'll go and run this again, and here you go. If you can see in this shell, I should close it, but it's okay. And one more resize. There you go. So here it is, and so on. So we expect now should be having my file there. So let me go and open the file, and here it is. You see that? So definitely that's where to go. Of course you can have this in a separate line if you would, using /n and all that good stuff. Alright, so this is the way how it works, and we want to be sure that you work with that. If you don't need that, just comment it, then you should be back where it was earlier. So with that, I think I'm done from the Python session here. So let me close everything, give more space and values, and we continue working with this. So the next thing, we will go and talk about the Tableau. So let me run the slideshow here, and let me switch this. Okay, great. So the Tableau here, it's very interesting. We will go and just come back and try to run this, and I recommend to, as I mentioned in the last week, to install Tableau using the license we give it to you on the material in the lab, and you have a license number, so install it locally. You don't want to have some hiccups in the AWS, for example. So and also I mentioned there's a good Tableau learning materials here. So there's a lot of videos. Just kind of need to fill a form, then you will get the videos. Good practice to practice these. So just follow up for this session here. The Tableau, we'll try just to show you if we can run basically your charts, and how we can work with these charts using the Tableau. You can build a lot of crosstab, heat maps, geographics, trees, maps, sometimes we call them also, pie charts, bar charts, scatter, plotters, and you can have a lot of options like reference lines. You can go to the graph and you find reference, so you can have threshold. You can say below this, above this. So very very neat, very friendly. You can use that. The most important really is try just to get the point here today in this session is to show you the dashboard and the story. And we mentioned that last week. Don't forget to save your work as a package where you have TWBX with the X, that's your data will be embedded and so on. So if you recall last week, kind of this is give you snapshots basically where you go and open Tableau if you have it handy, and I have here just snap shots here. For some reason I wasn't able to open my Tableau today using the AWS unfortunately, but that's fine. This is why I have the snapshot helping you. So as soon as you open the Tableau, you go File, Open Excel, if it is Excel, or Open Access, or Open SAS. So based on the type, you will do that. Then you will be able to see the data source. And the data source, we showed it to you last week, so I don't need to go and kind of duplicate the slides here, because this is just very quick sessions and so on. So when you open that data source, you will see the sheet with the tables. As a table, you drag whatever table you want, and if there's a relationship between the sheets or the table, you make that relationship as a join as well. So when you do that, you go to the first sheet and you go and rename it. Assume we call bar chart extended analysis, and rename it as you go. Right click on it and then you give it a name, and you can color it, and we did that last week as well. So when you do that, you will see two groups of your data. You'll see the data here. You may have one or multiple. You'll see dimensions and you'll see measures, and that's what we talked about last week as well. So the dimensions kind of more geographic, date, and also category, and you can see the symbol ABC or the globe, and date symbol as a calendar. The measures are your fact table in the data warehouse, are the measures. These are the grains that you try to build and so on. So you can see there are numeric like pound signs here, and also you may have with the equal, which we call calculated field as well. In addition, latitude and longitude, they are numeric, so they have them here as well. So as we mentioned that you can drag and drop to the area of the visualization, or I like personally to go and know what's my x-axis and my y-axis by defining columns and rows. So you drag, for example, the profit to the columns, and you drag the product type to the rows. When you see that, you see some chart like that, and we show you that last week. You can use this button here to flip, the axis. You can use sort, basically ascending and descending. So very friendly Tableau to build that and so on. And also we show you last week, you can build any other group. You can put them in a color or the size or table, and it drag you in this area, that helping you. In addition to that, you can drag anything you want to filter. So you can filter by area code, so you do that, you go area code here, or by month or by state. So very friendly. You'll see the filter as well in that corner. So you go move on and you build your sheets. Imagine that you build this on the fly, so you have a bunch of sheets, and here's the next one, just to show you where we're going to build that dashboard. So we have a profit over time. So what we got against like a time series where you have the time is your month date, and you can then see there's a plus there where you can click on the plus, will expand that hierarchy on that time in the data warehouse, whatever that, when they build that cube for you through this data. So definitely it's very interesting to see that expansion and hierarchy where you go from year to quarter to month to days, even to hours and second, based on the data that you have. Then you can see the nice graph, nice time series structure like you see here. And we're dealing with the profit, and the profit is a sum. Also, you can have a drop down here with an arrow. You can change the aggregation. So you can go with an average. You can go also with other tab of statistics if you're interested to go and work with the profit as well. You move on to another data sheets, and all these data sheets you add them by the plus. You see there's a plus there where you can see that, and that's where helping you to add another worksheets. The beauty of that, because the state, you can see the state here and the area code, they are globe and they are dimension. As soon as you drag them here, it will go and generate for you longitude and latitude, or longitude and latitude based on those x and y or column and rows. Then after that, that's give you the globe, to give you United States continent as well. Actually, you can zoom in and out. You'll see the whole world, and that's maybe you need to think about also when you do some data where you are and so on. And the layers coming from an OpenStreetMap, it's kind of part of that Tableau GIS layers as well. So what's happening that you start now looking for your measures and say, hey, I'm interested on the profit, and the default is the sum, by the way, as an aggregation, total profit. And what you do, you go to the profit here, and imagine you drag it here in the color, and when you do that, this will happening here, and that's what give you colors, and you can change the color. If you click on the right click and say, hey, change the color, you can do it. There's a lot of features in Tableau, very wonderful and very great. You can build and create very nice visualization as well. At the same time, you want to make a relationship also with the cells. So now you can see the cells here as soon as you drag it to the circle to the size, and that's where again the default is the sum. So now you can see there's small circles, big circles, and then you see some legend tell you, kind of the ranges of those circles based on the size. And you see that's where starting you can build filters and so on. So I think the idea is very clear from those two sessions last week and this week. And you just be sure you save file, save your Tableau as a package with TWBX, so that the embedded data will be coming back to you as soon as you open it. So when you do that, finally you go and build a dashboard, and the dashboard, you can say dashboard create or find a new dashboard. However, I can like to see that like a table here. So this is a sheet, this is a dashboard, and you can see like a book which we call the story. So what we need to do, we go and click on that dashboard, and when you do that, you get the dashboard there. You can change the layout, fit the size if you want to do this to the your desktop, and you change the size and also layout if you want to do this for your mobile devices or other things. And the beauty of this, all the sheet will be listed for you like this. Then you have an area like this area. So imagine you want to talk about three things, three sheets. We want to talk about the profit analysis, want to talk about their time series or overtime, and also by location. So very clean, very clear presentation or visualization. So what you do, you go to the specific sheet and drag it, and drag the second one, and drag the third one. Then you can resize everything. You can play with the title. You can also change other objects. You can add horizontal. You can have images. You can do vertical. You can add also a live web pages. You can add a text, and you can also change the floating or tiled. You can show the title, or you can remove that as well. And you can see the title coming from profit analysis, the title of that dashboard, and you see it is here as well. So these are the title of the sheets. This is the title of the dashboard. So very friendly, very easy to design, and after you finish that you can save it again and so on. The last part, you click on that book, and that's where we hitting you to talk about the story points. So the story points is really, it's another component, or if you want to call it a sheet, that contains a sequence of all the previous worksheet or dashboards. So you can design a dashboard, several sheets, and then the story can be also some dashboard as well, or mixed with worksheets and dashboard as well. So why we have a story? Think about, you tell a story to somebody, definitely you need to be connected the context. You want to be sure you go step 0, step 1, step 3, step 4. You need to make a good flow for people that they see your story, and those are the decision makers. And that's all about visualization concept, that you take the data, analyze it in your worksheet, and you make a story there. So definitely you want to make a good decision, you want to make a good story to show your outcomes, what exactly you try to achieve. And I think we will ask you in the final project to do something like that, which is great. So it's a good practice to go through those dashboard and stories, so you can be ready for your final assignments. All right, so let me just show you very quick here. So here's your story. You can call story 1, you can call it, based on the topic, rename this anytime, and based on the version, maybe you will see the add captions somewhere here, but usually they are here. So you have to create that add captions. So what you do, you get the first block here. You see now, you'll see the dashboard. Here's the dashboard and the previous worksheet. So it's your call if you want to drag dashboard. And remember, the dashboard is a sequence. Actually, it's not a sequence. It's combining some worksheets. The story is the sequence that you try to make a story there. So it's your call what you want to drag. You can resize, and anytime when you finish this, you can use that view here, so you see the story. So I'm just trying to show you a couple of steps. You can drag the sales profit here, for example, the map here, and you can see the profit by the color here. There's a filter there as well, and you start typing and updating the caption here. As soon as you finish that, here you go, you can type it, or right away you can say add a new blank point as well. So when you do that, you get another blank. So I didn't update it yet, I'm just trying just to show you here. So you can come back and just double click on those and you change the caption. So here's, I'm adding another sales by category. Basically it's another worksheet or visualization, and you can see that. So you can build, now you can see the story, 1 2 3 4, and I didn't name them, so I keep that for you because maybe you have different stories, different things. But here's your dashboard, which is the one that we did. These are previously that were like, like a charts or visualization, as you see. So you add a new blank points, which give you another. So now you have an arrow left and right, and that's when you go visualization, show or slideshow or story show. So when you click this guy here, like PowerPoint show, then you get this. So you can take that from the beginning, and you can use the arrow next, previous, to tell the story for people what exactly you're finding from the data that you analyze. Again, one more reminder, don't forget to basically to save your file as a TWBX as a package, and you work with that. The same story here. You can click show title, and the title will be default exactly the same name of the sheet of the story, or you can add also double click on that, and there's a lot of very nice. You can change the color, the font, or the size. Then you can move it around as well, as you see there. So this is just kind of give you a good start about the dashboard and the story using the Tableau. And I wish I have live here, but unfortunately, for some reason, my connection to Tableau in university here in the AWS still not processing. But I did want to show you that, and the slide I think give you a good story there with any help. All right, sounds good. I think that's it for this session, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if there is any questions that helping you in that session here today or tonight. So with that, go ahead and unmute and ask the questions if there's any, and I will check the chat as well for this session. So I'll give you a chance if you have any questions on tonight or today session, where we covered the if statement, the for, how you define functions, try and accept, and reading writing file, and we just chatted with the slides, hopefully give an idea about how we work with Tableau, different charts. It's easy, just select the chart and the correct dimension and measures, and building your dashboard, and finally make it very nicely organized, clean. Don't make it clouded and clustered too much, just try to simplify it so you can tell the story as well. Any questions? If there is no questions, if there's a question, please, we have a couple of minutes here. Go ahead and unmute and ask the question. There's a question about the chart in the chat that you installed the IDE and give you some messages. We recommend take a snapshot of this, maybe as you mentioned, maybe the firewall, and send it to your FA or your professor. Hopefully we can helping you. We're looking for that why your IDLE in Python doesn't work. Other questions? Definitely the question that came earlier, which is about the Python float is important, and we want to be sure you put the float in the input to receive the values. So this will take the string values from the keyboard and convert it to a float, which is a decimal value. It's very important to have that in order to do that conversion and the calculation. Otherwise you get an error, and I think I showed it to you earlier based on the response of the question that you asked here. Excellent. Any other questions? All right, well, with that, if there is no questions, I really appreciate your time this evening or this morning or this afternoon, and we hope those two sessions in Data 620 WebEx give you a good start to continue enjoyment and learning more about the Python and Tableau. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send your FA and your professors, including myself and my FA, any question. We are here to helping you. With that, thank you very much, and appreciate your time, and enjoy your class. Thank you very much.